Okay, so I just finished the project. Initially, I thought of creating this app because I want to build up some habits. As the time at home goes by, I just gain more and more weight, so I just think it'd be good to exercise a couple times a week and keep a healthy lifestyle. This app is kind of simple. It's for activity tracking, and straightforwardly, I call it Build Up. So this one is a Blazor server app, SPA, and the homepage or an index looks like this. One example use case could be the one I just mentioned. I'd like to exercise, say 3 times a week. I can use this app to track my exercise activities. Here you have a big button saying Add New Action. Click it, it becomes a form. So the action name is Exercises. It's up to you if you want to make some notes here. I'll just say 3 times a week. This lasting action actually means if the action is ongoing basis. For this case, you don't just exercise for a second. So we toggle this switch and say we want the lasting action. Then it will record the time you start the exercises and the time you stop. There's another scenario. Let's say I want to quit smoking. Well, I actually don't smoke, but that's not the topic. Anyways, I want to track it every time I smoke. Apparently, I only care when I couldn't hold it and smoke a cigarette. And I don't need to know when I started, when I finished, and how many minutes it took. That just doesn't make sense. So in that case, I just don't need this last in action. Now back to the exercises. I hit the add button. Then you see the new action is added. Here's the name, the notes I left, and this button is for when I start my exercises. I tap Lock New, and I do my exercises. And I get a message saying I started 0 minutes ago. When I finish, I'll come back and tap this Login. Then the entry is completed. Of course, by then, this message won't be just 0 minutes ago. And those are some tests I created before. You can see there are different messages. This one, I left it here since I added it. So you see there's no activity. And this one, well, I just logged an entry 11 hours ago. So yeah, we can add another action. This time I won't do the lasting action, and I'll leave the note blank. For the action name, I'll say quit smoking. Then I add the action. Okay, it's here. Say, okay, I just smoked, and I'll hit the button. This time it's not because it's not the last action, so there's no start and you directly see the last action activity 0 minutes ago. So yeah, this is the home page. Next, it will be the details page. We have this split layout here. Upper left, you can see all actions here. You can select an action to view the details. We click one. And the right side are the activities we just logged. And the lower left is showing the details of this action. For the action details, we see the name, the time we created, and if it's a last in action, and the note. Here we have this button for delete the action. And this one for edit. One thing to be noted that I decided not to allow changing the lasting action in order to avoid the potential database confusion. Also for my in reality use cases, I don't need to change that. If I made a mistake, I can just delete the action and add a new one, which is easier. Now you can have the permission to edit the name and the note, say something. After editing, I can just click the check mark to save the change, and then that's it. So for the activities, it's just a table showing the times as well as the delete button. So this one is a last in action. So we have the time start, time end, and the duration. This one is not. So only one lock time per entry. And I can try to delete this activity. No activities for this action. So this is all about the app itself. Definitely not a complex one, but I'm the user and I wrote it according to my need, so I'm actually satisfied. And now we can have a glance on the code. This is how the source files are organized. I have a data folder and I put the entity models, services, DB contacts here. Migrations are stored separately because I don't want the data folder to be too messy. Then the pages shared folder for some Blazor components, the DB file itself, and the entry points. For the models, there are only two, the action and the time entry, which are referred as activities in the app. So for the action, you see there were some basic field, ID name, create time, lasting node, etc. Action has the row version, where time entry doesn't, because generally for time entry, it's not involved in complicated operations. And for time entry, the time end field is nullable because only the lasting actions have the start time and end time. For DB context, not much here. I set up a cascade delete here. Then we should talk a bit about services. That's where the CRUD operations sit. So for time entry, this one gets the last activity for an action. This is used on the home page so that we see the messages of last activity, like how many minutes ago. And this is get time entries by the action ID. So it gets you all the time entries for a certain action, which is used in the details page in the table. Then it's the add time entry. So it has an exception handling. It returns either the newly added time entry ID or -1 if something goes wrong. Update is only for the lasting action activities. Basically, it logs the end time. Again, it has the exception handling. Return true or false, indicating if the action is successful. Then it's the delete. Again, it has the returning true or false, indicating the operation if it's successful. And for the action services, it's pretty much the same. You get all the actions, add action, exception handling, update. Here, I only allow to update name and note. Also have the returning true and false, delete actions, true or false indicating if it's successful. Next, we can have a look at the pages. Index page. So here we've got a title. This is the error message. If any CRUD fails, this message will show up. The operations are so simple, and I don't see a scenario that the operations could fail, except for the database is actually down. So I figured I'll just show this exception handling here in the code. Moving forward, this is the big button of the add action. This is the plus sign icon. You click this for the form to show up. So this is the form show up when you click this button. After that, it's the loop for displaying all the actions. You have name here, node, the lock button, and the last activity. So one thing that I noticed, that for Blazor components, this I and the current are in different scope. So if I put I instead of current here, and say I have 6 actions, in the end, no matter which one I click, it will pass 6 here, because the loop, after the loop, I will equal to 6. But the current is declared within the loop, so the correct position will be kept as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here's some code for the page, behind the page. On the top, some declaration. I overrode this on initialize async, which will run when the server is rendering the page. So I put refresh actions here. So in this method, it will first get all the actions and then get all the last time entries for each action and then put it back to the list. So here, show add form method, it will be executed when you click the button, add new button. And also I declared a property called the new action, which is binded to the form. So when you click the add action button, it will execute this method and it will take this new action, which is binded to the form. So it will get the name and note. And also there is a detection because it doesn't allow the empty name. And in the form, the text box for the name is actually marked as required. So if you don't input a name, nothing will be done, and you get a notification. So the create time is now. Then we call the method in the service, action service, add this new action, and I get the result. If the result is -1, which means something went wrong, then I show the error message. So after that, if everything goes well, I'm gonna reset the new action and error message, and I'm gonna hide the add new action form, bring the button back, then I refresh the actions. So lock entry method, it will be executed when you click the lock button. So it will check if it's lasting or is there any entries there already. So basically, it will check if you want to create a new time entry or lock the end time for an existing time entry. And also, there's this exception handling. And if everything goes well, just reset everything and get the new last time entries. So this is for the index. Details, pretty much the same. Title, error message. Then here comes a different part. So this is the first card. If there's no action, it will ask you to create an action. If there are actions, then they're going to show the actions. And also, those are the list that you can have items you can click on when you select a action. So here's this select action method. Yeah, and after that, that's the details. Also, it will check if you have the valid selection. If not, it's going to just show the either you didn't select an action, so it will ask you to select an action, or there's no action, so it will also show create an action to start. So for the details, these are the buttons. First, this is the delete button, and then here's the title, displaying the action's name, and the input. This input is for the edit the name. There's also this display details or display edit. These are the toggles. So this button is for edit or save. You see, it's binded with this edit action, and that delete button is connected to the delete action method. So this part is the body of the form, details form for actions. You can see the time you created, and if it's a lasting action. The two X areas are for the note. One is for displaying, the other is for editing. So you see this one's got marked as read only. So this edit text area is binded with action note edited. And here's the toggles variables. When you click the edit button, it will change the visibilities. So the last is the time entries. So again, you will check if you have the valid selection. If you do, then it will show the activities. This is then it will start to display this table, and then it will check how many time entries of the selected action. If there's none, then it will display a message. If there are time entries, then it will start to show the table, display the table. And if it depends on if it's a last in action, it will display time start, time end, duration, or only the time. So here is just for displaying the data. And this is the button for deleting. It's also linked to a method. So here it's again for like if you don't have a valid selection, it would check if there is any action, or you simply just didn't select one. So here's the code behind. First, you see we got an action ID parameter, which allows you to actually specify which actions details you want to see in the URL. So together, it works with the selection and action ID. It will allow us to determine which action is currently selected. Also, these are some declaration on the top. Overrode uninitialized async method with this refresh details. In it, I will first get all the actions, and according to the action ID, I will get a selection, like the index. So this select action method, it will be executed once you click any of the actions in the list located on the upper left of the page. So first, if you select the action, it will reset the visibility. It will show the details and hide the edit form, and of course set the selection action ID and get all the time entries that will show up in the table. Then we come to the edit action method. This one is a bit more complicated because it's going to detect which mode we're in. And so first, if we are displaying the details and the edit form is hidden, so it's going to bring up the edit and hide this display. And also, for the action name edit and the action node edit, it's going to be, of course, initialized with this selected actions name and node, so that when you bring up the edit form, the original name and the original node is already showed up there. So if it's the other scenario on which is the details edit form is already shown and you're currently in the edit mode. So first it will check if the newly edit name, if it's empty, because we don't allow empty names. And then after that, okay, we're gonna bring this details display back and hide the edit form. And we construct a action, put in all the edited fields, and then we call the service the update action async method. Try to update this action, and we get a result. And if it's true, which means we updated successfully, so we reset the error message and then refresh this details. Otherwise, we show up the error message. And for delete action, it's pretty much the same. When you try to delete an action, click the button, and it will try to execute this delete action method. Again, it will call the service delete action async method. And pass in the selected action ID. Again, there is a exception handling. So lastly is the delete time entry. Pretty much works like the same. Get the ID passed in and try to call time entry services, and then get a result. Exception handling. That's pretty much it. Finally, we can have a look at the migrations. So, well, nothing special here. It's just the two triggers for handling the concurrency, the row version. And for this project, I use SQLite, as you can see here. And these two are just for the services in the data folder. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this project. This video may be a bit long. Thank you for your time watching it.